Welcome back to Tech Stack for all you tech enthusiasts. This is part 6 of our Laravel 13 series, Blade Template. So what is a Blade template? A Blade template is Laravel's built-in templating engine that we use to build the user interface of our application in a clean and efficient way. Now let's create a variable called cust_email and assign it the value john@mail.com. This variable will be used to pass dynamic data into our Blade template. Now we will pass this variable to the view using an array. This sends the customer email from the controller to the Blade view, so we can display it dynamically. Now open the customer Blade file and display the cust_email variable using double curly braces. This is called Blade echo syntax. Blade echo syntax automatically displays data inside the view. It also protects our application by escaping the output, which helps prevent security issues like XSS attacks. Now let's start the Laravel development server by running php artisan serve in the terminal. This will run our application so we can test everything in the browser. Perfect. As you can see, everything is working correctly in the browser. Now let's rename the file by removing .blade from the extension and see what happens when we test in the browser. By doing this, Laravel will no longer recognize it as a Blade template, so it will not process Blade syntax. As you can see, now it is displaying as plain text instead of processing the Blade syntax. This is because Laravel only processes Blade syntax when the file has the .blade.php extension. Without it, the file is treated as a normal PHP or HTML file. Now let's learn how we can use functions inside Blade syntax. We will convert text into uppercase. Now let's define a variable called $name and assign it the value John. Now let's pass the $name variable to the customer view using an array. This allows us to access the $name variable inside the Blade template and use it dynamically. Now let's open the Blade view and display the name variable using double curly braces. Now let's open the browser and test our output. As you can see, it is displaying correctly in the browser. Now use the str to upper PHP function to convert the name to uppercase. Blade allows us to use PHP functions directly inside the view, so we can easily modify data before displaying it. Now let's open the browser and test the uppercase output. As you can see, the name is now displaying in uppercase. This confirms that we can use PHP functions inside Blade to manipulate data before showing it to the user. Now let's define an array called $custs and add two values, John and Edward. This array will be used to demonstrate how we can loop through multiple values in Blade. Now let's pass this array to the customer view. This allows us to send multiple values from the controller to the Blade view, so we can display them dynamically. Now open the customer Blade file and apply a foreach loop. In Blade, loops like foreach start with the symbol. Blade uses foreach instead of PHP syntax to keep the code clean and readable inside views. Now use a paragraph tag. This helps us display each value on a new line in a proper HTML structure. Now we will close the loop using and foreach. In Blade, every foreach loop must be properly closed with and foreach to avoid errors. Now inside the loop, we will display each customer using double curly braces. This will print each value from the array one by one inside the Blade view. Now let's refresh the browser to test it. Oops, we got an error. $name is not defined. This is happening because we're trying to use $name in the view, but we are not passing it from the controller anymore. So let's fix it by removing $name from the view. Now let's go back to the browser and test it again. Our Blade view is now properly displaying data without any errors. Now let's learn how to use if conditions in Blade. First, we will create a variable called $number. Now let's assign the value 10 to the $number variable. We will use this value to test conditional logic in our Blade template. Now we will send this variable to the view. Now open the customer Blade file and remove the foreach loop. Now let's start the if condition in Blade using if $number greater than 10. If the condition is true, we will display an h1 tag saying number is greater than 10. Now let's close the condition using @endIf. In Blade, condition must be properly closed with endIf to complete the condition block. Now change the number to 12 and test in the browser. Perfect. As you can see, the condition is true and it is showing number is greater than 10. Now, we apply the else if condition. This allows us to check multiple conditions and show different outputs based on the value. Now, let's add an else if condition to check if the number is equal to 10. This condition will run only if the first if condition is false and the number equals 10. If the number is equal to 10, we will display number is equal to 10 in an h1 tag. Now change the value to 10 and test it in the browser. Since the number is equal to 10, the else if condition will be executed. As you can see, the output is now showing number is equal to 10. This confirms that our else if condition is working correctly in the Blade template. Now let's update the value of $number to 7. Since 7 is neither greater than 10 nor equal to 10, both conditions will fail, so we will add an else condition. Now in the else block, we will display number is less than 10 inside an h1 tag. This message will show when none of the conditions above are true. Now let's go to the browser and test the output again. Oops, it is still showing number is equal to 10. Looks like we made a mistake somewhere, so let's debug it. Yes, now we found the issue. We used a single equal sign, which is wrong in conditions. So let's replace it with double equal signs and test again. Perfect. Now is correctly showing number is less than 10. Now let's change the value of $number to 15 and test it in the browser again. Perfect. As you can see, it is now showing number is greater than 10. This confirms that our if, elseif, and else conditions are working correctly in the Blade template, depending on the value we pass from the controller. If you're passionate about learning new technologies, make sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel, Tech Stack, and keep learning new skills. Thank you. And remember, consistency is the key to success.